Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another edition of Alpharetta Tech Talk. I'm John Ray, and we are coming to you from the Business RadioX studio inside Renaissance Bank in, yet again, rainy Alpharetta. Folks, today you're connected and actually wet more than ever. Whether it's your friends, your family, or your life, Renaissance understands how you bank, and they offer mobile banking services that you need. But they also know that sometimes you want to speak to real people with real answers, not an 800 number. And that's why they have more than 190 convenient locations throughout the South, open and ready to serve you. And we're in one of the best ones. For more information, go to renaissancebank.com. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. And I want to welcome Tom Berger to the show. Tom is a helpful guy. I mean, I want him to tell a little bit more specifically about what he's been doing, but he is focused on helping entrepreneurs and startup companies in the Alpharetta area. Tom, welcome.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So tell folks a little more specifically, put some meat on those bones that I put out there about how you help entrepreneurs and startups in the Alpharetta area.
Sure, be glad to. First, by way of background, I spent 22 years with big companies, including 17 years at Motorola. Then I ran 7 different startups over 20 years. And the last about 6 years or so, I've been helping entrepreneurs on a totally pro bono basis. And I like to say I'm helping them make new mistakes, not the same ones I made over my career. And boy, I made a lot of them.
Oh, yeah. You've got that experience to bring to the table.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's awesome. What prompted you to do that? I mean, because this is pretty unusual to mentor pro bono for 20 years. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, actually, it's been about 5 years I've been doing it pro bono.
Okay, gotcha.
But, I think really now with the political situation, talk about money, the line I like to use is you can never have too much money, but you can have enough. Mm-hmm. And God's been very good to my wife and I, and so it's time to give back. And so I figured by actually not charging for any services at all, there's no question about my bias or lack of bias, or I feel with that arrangement, I can give honest, candid opinions to people and not have an ulterior motive with it.
Now, one of the things you've done, Tom, is you've created a pretty comprehensive website. And when I say comprehensive, that probably is not a good enough word in terms of the depth of what you offer folks. Tell a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's. I have to go back and give you a story about that.
Please.
I was with Motorola for 17 years, and I left Motorola. I was one of the founders of a joint venture between Motorola and IBM. And so the first day, I started noticing differences between a big company and a small company. And like I like to say, the fundamental difference I saw in big companies, people are focused on not losing. And in small companies, especially entrepreneurs, are focused on winning. And the way I like to say it is, when I was at Motorola, I liked mahogany. I liked being called Mr.
Right.
I liked somebody else making airline reservations for me.
Sure.
But when I got involved in small companies, I liked something else, making money.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, I started writing down this list of just, differences. And I kept it up over the years. And that list grew to be 982 items long. And some were trivial, such like use first names on a telephone list, rather trivial. But others were pretty profound. And in 2004, I started writing a book, taking these down, writing things. And I wrote 4 chapters in 92 pages. And when I was proofreading it for the third or fourth time, it dawned on me I was bored to death reading what I wrote. And it also occurred to me that people don't read long chapters. So I put it away. That was in 2004. And in 2015, I had a different idea. I said, what I'm going to do is write short, bite-sized articles. And so that's what I did. And so each article has a very specific subject, and it's about 800 words long. You can read it in 2 to 3 minutes. Now, I was writing more this morning, and I spent over 4,000 hours doing it. But my total now is 623 articles.
Wow.
About all aspects of starting and running a business.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing, rather anal person, I guess, but it's 615,000 words. To put that in perspective, it's longer than War and Peace or Atlas Shrugged. Now,
Wow.
Of course, that's the only thing it has in common with those two works of art.
Right. Well, there are a lot of things those two books have that yours don't have that yours do. Right. So that's we have to say that too. I'm curious what you have included on your website that you view in terms of articles that you view as either profound, you use that word, or maybe controversial, unexpected.
Yeah, I think it's in 9 volumes and covers a wide range of topics. But the one that gets the most attention and the one I spend most of my time on is volume 3. It's, I think, 101 articles. It's on starting a company. And again, I'm not sure profound, but I really take to task a lot of the common knowledge that you hear on the internet and certainly with all the experts about the realities of what it's like to start a company. And nobody starts a company thinking they're going to fail, but the reality is that over 80% of companies fail by year 10, 50% by year 5, and a fraction of 1% ever raise financial or money from investors. So I really spent a lot of time on those type of areas because so many new entrepreneurs have a very distorted view of what it's like to start a company. And so that's, I think, both some profound but a realistic view, I think. So
you're not trying to discourage necessarily. You're just trying to give folks some realism in what they're up to.
Exactly right. You know, it's easy to talk about the failures, but a lot of them make it and have a wonderful life because of it. And very few of the entrepreneurs, even the ones that have not made it, they're just waiting for their next idea to do it again. Again, after the 22 years of big companies, I learned so much and loved it, but I could never go back to a big company after experiencing the freedom of a small company.
So, Tom, I'm curious about the process of starting up. I mean, you've been involved in a lot, you've seen a lot. What are some of the big mistakes you see out there that you address on your website, or maybe you can give us a few stories?
Sure. Really, people quite often ask me, why do companies fail? And without a moment's hesitation, I say there's 2 things in order: focus and execution. And by that, I mean people they don't focus. People think of their idea as applying to everybody, in the galaxy. And so what they try and do is have a solution to everybody's problem, and they spread themselves too thin. So the lack of focus is the largest area. And then the second one is execution. That goes with focus. But this is especially true with technical developers. They'll focus on the technology themselves. And after they've got that technology all buttoned up, then they say, we ought to think about sales or marketing or other aspects. Yeah. And it's a big mistake. They've got to focus on one particular business or one segment and then really worry about all elements of the execution. So I've seen this time and time again. So many companies just lack that particular focus, afraid of missing something.
And is that because they're, as you say, you said the focus of most startups is they want to make money. Is that just because they're focused on grabbing revenue to get to that magic scale land that a lot of these startups want to get to, or is what's the reason for that?
Missing an opportunity. Okay. That's it. And the revenue is really secondary, but they just, our product could work in this market, or our service could be in this market or that market. And they just have a very, very, a wide view. And to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a visionary. And let me give you one example of a company that frankly is really doing it right. It's a company called Hangenics. And Hangenics has a system and a solution to help enforce hand hygiene, washing your hands in hospitals. It sounds not like a big thing, but the reality is over 200 people a day in this country die from hospital-acquired infections. It's incredible. And hand washing is the major problem.
200 people a day.
A day. It's like a commercial airliner crashing every day, but 200 people a day. Now, we're not talking about coronavirus or anything else.
Right.
This is just every day, every year.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge problem. Now, the thing is, though, that their product could easily be used in many other marketplaces. I mean, I hate to say it, it's timely now, but on cruise ships, for people handling food, in the food distribution area, in all different areas and clinics. But what Hangenics is doing, they're focusing only on the hospital market. Okay, and so they could get pulled in many different directions than they are. And Jeff Klein, the CEO, although it has to curl his toes and grit his teeth, he's staying very focused on that particular business. The other thing they're doing in terms of execution, they're moving very slowly and deliberately, getting testimonials, learning from the products rather than trying to blanket the marketplace with a product that's not quite right. They're really doing a lot of field tests. So there's a company, focus and execution, and they're doing it right.
And that may be the slower way to get where you want to go ultimately, right? I mean, when you're focused on one particular industry, that industry may not be ready for you, as it were. You've got a lot of work to do to penetrate that particular industry, right?
Absolutely right. There's no question about it. It's a slower path to revenue. And then that's always the issue about how do I raise money? How do I keep funding the operation?
Sure.
But if you're in it for the long term, which you really have to be successful, that's the right approach to take. I use a whole bunch of one-liners. The one about this area is you choke to death much faster than you starve. And I know we all know that from our personal lives, but for business, it happens all the time. The small company says, boy, if I could only get that order from Walmart, if I could only get that order from other big companies, and lo and behold, they get it, and then they can't possibly deliver. So it's a huge mistake. I've seen many companies fall on that trap as well. So the focus and execution, yes, revenue is delayed, but if you're in it for the long term, it's really the way to go.
Folks, if you just joined us, we're speaking with Tom Berger. He's with RDK Consulting, which is his business consulting firm, and he consults with entrepreneurs, startup companies in and around the North Georgia area. Let's back up a little bit to entrepreneurs they're at the idea stage. Let's talk about what kind of advice you give them on how they should proceed.
Sure. One of the things that's really in vogue today, people talk about customer discovery. And I really like to break customer discovery into three different areas. First, I call it problem discovery. And with problem discovery, you have an idea, and then you need to really formulate that idea into something that's important to the customer, not to you. Big mistake a lot of people make. They have an elegant solution for themselves, but it's not really for prospects. And during the problem discovery phase, you socialize your idea with friends and relatives, and unfortunately, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. People have a very hard time telling you your baby's ugly.
Right.
But you really have to get your problem discovery crystal clear. Next phase is prospect discovery. Then you go to prospects and you ask them, what do you think about this? And get their candid opinion. And that's very, very important. And that's where I'll do a lot of regrouping. The third phase is what I call customer discovery. And that's when you actually have something and you offer it to a customer and say, will you buy it? And that's when the rubber meets the road. In the first two cases, it's really one about opinions. The third one, customer discovery, is about their actions. And so entrepreneurs really need to think in those three phases. And rather than trying to run with a minimum viable product, and then trying to sell that, they need to go through those three phases. It takes time, but it's well worth it to nail the solution properly.
Well, and even in the problem discovery, I mean, you're talking about identifying problems based on the scale of that problem to the customer, right? I mean, because it's easy to get caught up in a problem that's not that urgent to that end client.
Bingo, that's exactly right. In fact, part of my career, I was with a major venture capital firm, and one of the questions I always used to ask when I was talking to an entrepreneur, I said, are you solving a problem that customers agree needs to be solved now and are willing to pay you for it? Okay, and so That's one of the big things. You have to have prospects or customers agree that the problem's worth solving. The example I give is when I go into a big box store like a Best Buy, I walk up and down every aisle, and there's literally something in every aisle that I want. But I typically walk out of the store buying nothing. Now, does that make the products wrong? No, not at all. Are they not viable? No, they're viable. They just are not what I need now. And so this is what happens. You have a great solution. You are solving a problem, but it comes in number 6 and the customer buys 1 through 5.
Right. That's a problem. So, Tom, I want to get to, some of the specific companies and types of companies that you work with. I mean, we're technology oriented here on Alpharetta Tech Talk. You obviously work with tech oriented enterprises, certainly given your background, and you hang out over at Tech Alpharetta. Maybe we can talk a little bit about what you do over there, and when you're there, because that's important for people to know. But do you work with more than just technology companies?
Oh, absolutely. Over the years, it sounds crazy, but I've worked with a company that was doing hunting apparel. Okay, and from hunting apparel to software quality assurance for major enterprises, top 100 enterprises.
Oh, wow.
And virtually everything in between. Now, I do. I mean, the show is really great because I spend most of my time here in Alpharetta. I like to use the line, life's too short to spend it driving on 400. So
for sure.
Right, yeah. So I don't get to Buckhead or the city very often, but I work out of Tech Alpharetta, and I'm there on Wednesdays, and I just do office hours. People send me an email, and we meet. Most of my activities are with Tech Alpharetta companies, by nature, by definition, they are technology companies. But it doesn't matter. I've worked with a lot of companies that are not part of Tech Alpharetta as well.
Sure. So, let's talk about technology specifically, because those are the folks that generally are listening to this show. What are you seeing in technology in Alpharetta in terms of what you're really excited about generally? I mean, if you want to talk about specific companies, you can, but I'm talking about in terms of big picture, because there's several different areas of concentration in Alpharetta, as we all know. Talk about what you're seeing there and what you're excited about.
Yeah, well, I think what's happened, I'm a double E by background, a master's in electrical engineering many years ago. And back when I was in school, it was all hardware focused. Today, every company is a software company. Now, some may actually sell their software in terms of hardware that it's in.
Right.
Everybody's a software company. And if they're not, they won't survive. So the great focus in companies here in Alpharetta are in the software area. And that's a big area, of course, whether it's fintech or medical devices or anywhere else. But it's really the incredible speed and ease of development is really, frankly, shocked me, and how fast things are being able to do. I can remember many years ago, I had a developer who spent almost a year in his own time figuring out how to write Windows applications. This was back in the early 90s. Now, my goodness, everybody's doing it.
Sure.
So, and the areas in particular, machine learning, artificial intelligence, the what can be done with machine learning in every business is just very, very surprising to me and very impressive.
And some of that speed of development has to do with the ecosystem you sit in, right? I mean, because we're sitting here in Alpharetta, which the technology ecosystem has developed in a fairly dramatic fashion over the last 20 years, 10 years, what have you, even 5 years. And that has something to do with it as well, at least for companies around here, right?
Oh, absolutely. One of the lines I use is somebody makes everything. And it's really interesting how a company can have a specialty, but they can find people to complement them. And many of those companies are right here in Alpharetta. So you don't have to do cradle to grave development in all aspects of it. You can find partners right here in Alpharetta, or certainly within this area, that can help you. Now, of course, the internet has made it easy to find partners anywhere in the world, but I've been really surprised at the diversity of people here. And there's one other thing about makes Alpharetta pretty unique. It's the age of the developers. And when you go down, certainly towards Georgia Tech, or you go to any other places, you find much younger people, but as entrepreneurs. But here, most entrepreneurs I work with have corporate experience. They've been there and done that, if you will. So there's a level of maturity in terms of what they're doing and their experience level that really, really gives them a leg up on some of their younger peers.
So let's talk about, and some of those things are obvious, that experience and the structure that you learn being in, a well-run corporate enterprise here in the United States. What are the negatives that come from that experience? What do you have to talk people out of that come out of corporate?
Probably the biggest thing is making the transition to getting their hands really, really dirty again. And, I've hired, hundreds of people over the 7 startups I ran over the years. And it was really remarkable. I could never find out or determine beforehand if somebody with a corporate experience was going to make it or not. And all of them thought they could make the transition. Probably half really made it successfully. The other half not so successfully or didn't make it. It's really tough. Some people, I can use the line I used before, like mahogany or like being able to delegate to other people. But one of the line I use is when you start a company, you are the CEO, but you're the chief everything officer. And it's only until you have a staff and a formal organization do you become the CEO again. And a lot of people have a hard time becoming the chief everything officer. It's not easy.
Yeah, for sure. Folks, if you just joined us, we're speaking with Tom Berger, and he is with RDK Consulting. Success stories. If you got any you'd like to share, folks you've worked with?
There's been a number of them that have been successful. The one that comes to mind is Celtic testing experts. This is a company run by a Irish gentleman, and he was an expert at testing software for big corporations. And through a group I belong to called CEO Netweavers, where it's about 65 CEOs or ex-CEOs or retired CEOs and other high-level executives, we form little advisory boards and help companies. And this gentleman brought his wife, who was a medical device salesperson, and he brought her into the company. And we said, first of all, why doesn't she become the CEO? For all the benefits that you can have as a woman-owned business,
right?
And she came into the company, and we just coached them along the way. And that organization's grown from one person to, I believe they have about 40 different consultants now working with major corporations across the country. So it was a subject matter expert, which many entrepreneurs are, but he figured out how to let go and bring in other people and have his wife, who's done a marvelous job. And so they co-run the company on it. But it's really been fun watching them grow and watching this individual person leave go, and instead of being the only person that could do the job, really scale. That's very difficult, and frankly, that's pretty rare that entrepreneurs can move past that stage to really running a successful company.
Wow, that's an awesome story. And there's so much of, there are several things you've mentioned along the way. Part of it involves setting aside your ego.
Absolutely right. It's very difficult. And in fact, when entrepreneurs or small companies approach me to work with them, I have 2 criteria. One, if they say, I know exactly what to do, all I need is money, I run away. Okay.
You heard it here first, folks. You know when Tom's going to run.
Yeah, right. The second thing, if they're not good listeners. And a mentor of mine from Motorola many years ago used a line. He said, it's when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And what I ask people I work with is, I said, I want you to listen to everything I say, but certainly don't do everything I tell you to do. It's your company. But they have to be good listeners. And to be a good listener, you've got to admit that you don't know things and actually put your ego aside. And that's especially for a very successful large company person. to admit that they have some vulnerabilities. It's very hard for a lot of people to do that, but you have to be a good listener to be a successful entrepreneur.
Great words of wisdom from Tom Berger with RDK Consulting. So, Tom, you kind of alluded to it, how you work with companies. Let's get specific. When somebody's interested in coming to talk to you, how do you work with them?
Okay. Typically what happens is they'll send me an email, and my email address is tom@RDK Group. That's rdkgroup.com. And just say, hey, can we get together? And we'll typically have a phone call, 5-minute phone call. And then I try and meet with people on Wednesdays when I'm at Tech Alpharetta. And the first thing I do is I refer them to my website. Again, everything I do is free. The website's free. Okay. And that website is CxO Atlas, ATLAS.com. And as I said, there's 623 articles. Volume 3 is all about starting a company. But I ask them just take a quick look at that and then see if there's something worthwhile talking about. And my quote engagements are very informal, from a 1-hour meeting to I've got pretty extensive involvement with some people. Last year I worked with 40 different entrepreneurs and small companies.
And you've got some different ways you connect at Tech Alpharetta. So you're part of the Million Cups, and you've got some other office hours I think you have as well, right? So why don't you walk through that? Sure.
One of the great programs, it's a national program by the Kauffman Foundation. It's called 1 Million Cups. And every Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock, it really starts around 7:45, an entrepreneur will come and present their ideas. And we like to say anything from half-baked ideas all the way to regular businesses.
Right.
And then there's a crowd of 15 to 25 people who comment. And if you will, it's like a Shark Tank love-in. Okay, it's not meant to criticize or belittle, but it's meant to help people. And I participate in that. And then after that, at 9:30, then I have office hours, except every other week from 9:30 to 10:30, I do a program called Startup Insights Forum, where I'll pick a subject, and then typically I broadcast for 10 or 15 minutes, and then we have an open dialogue. We've done about 26 of those from last year on. And
oh, wow.
Like that. And I'm right in the middle of a series now. 2 weeks ago was referenceable revenue, the first step. And next week it'll be scalable revenue. And then the third one will be profitable revenue. So we talk about those 3 phases of revenue. So cover all different types of subjects. Then after that, I do office hours, and we're just willing to talk to anybody that wants to talk.
That's awesome. So, I want to ask from the other point of view in terms of, mentorship. There's a lot of folks out there that offer themselves as mentors to startup companies. What should a startup look for in a mentor? What should an entrepreneur look for in a mentor for a really good person to help them?
Yeah, somebody that's been where they want to go. And first of all, they should do it for free. I don't believe mentors should ever be charging for it. But one of the areas where you can get in trouble very quickly, if you can take somebody that's been a major executive at a major organization, although they've got a wealth of experience, it really doesn't apply to somebody in a startup mode. They can mean well, but they just don't have the right experience. So what you want in a mentor is somebody that's actually run a startup company, been involved with startups. And then obviously, I'm biased. Good thing this is radio, but you don't see all my gray hairs. But somebody that's at least a few years ahead of you in terms of what they've done. And honestly, if you can find a company that sounds crazy, and a mentor that's had a failed company, they can probably give you more candid advice than somebody that's been an overnight success. Because you truly do learn more from your mistakes than you do from doing things right.
So true. And those T-shirts are mighty helpful as time goes on, right?
Right.
So let's talk about how folks get in touch with you. But I noticed you're not on Facebook.
Yeah,
come on, Tom.
Right. Yeah. No. Really, and I've got to go back to my website. And people say, "Why don't you charge for that?" And the reason I don't, I wrote that website for myself. It sounds crazy, but I wanted to get down my thoughts that were swimming around my head so it doesn't keep me up at night. So I wrote it for myself. And I really at the point now where I don't need or even want a lot of publicity. I can only handle and work with just a few companies at any one time. Mm-hmm. So the last thing I need is national, regional, or even citywide notoriety on it. So I'm just trying to stay focused right here in the Alpharetta and Cumming area. And so I just purposely decided to keep a very, very low profile. So I am on LinkedIn, but I'm just not at all trying to self-promote it. It drives all of my marketing friends absolutely crazy. Sure. I don't do that.
Sure. Well, it's it's too late now because you're out there all over the place now as of this show, right? But we're going to get your name out there. But but your point is well taken. I mean, but you've really leveraging your experience for the benefit of those that maybe can't come to Alpharetta and sit in front of you one-on-one, right? Right,
exactly right. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I should mention, it's the 623 articles sounds intimidating, but the articles are written so that you can read any article in any order. You don't have to start at the beginning of a volume, chapter, section. If one of the titles catches your fancy, you can just read that in, as I said, it's I think they average 840 or 850 words, but it's 2 pages. So you can read it in 2 or 3 minutes. And that's what I recommend people do. Just take a look at the index, take a look at it, and then just if something hits their attention, you can do it. Then you can hit forward, previous, or next, and see the next one in line if you choose to do so.
Sure. This is awesome. Awesome resource, folks. I encourage you to check it out. And Tom, let's tell them one more time where they can tell them about the URL, the website address, and your how to get in touch with you.
Sure. It's the website is www.CxO Atlas.com. And my email address is tom@rdkgroup.com.
Awesome stuff. Tom Berger, thanks for your service.
Sure, it's my pleasure. I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, terrific. Folks, if you need help, some other kind of help that involves maybe some of the ugly stuff that Tom was talking about that you really have to get involved with, like bookkeeping, that's pretty ugly, marketing, presentations, maybe a workshop planned, all the administrative tasks are involved in a business, well, go engage a smart and reliable office angel. They're not a temp agency or a placement firm. Office Angels matches your business support needs with angels who you will be grateful for, who have the talent and experience necessary to help you maintain and grow your business on an ongoing or as-needed basis. Your terms, your timeline. They lend a hand when needed and fly off when the job is done. Find out more at officeangels.us or call the remarkable, and I know of what I speak, Chief Executive Angel S.E. Escobedo at 770-442-9246. That's where the Chief Everything Officer might need the Chief Executive Angel, right? Folks, just a reminder that you can listen to this show on all the major podcast platforms. That includes Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, TuneIn. I can go on, but you can find us pretty much anywhere. Or you can find us online at North Fulton businessradio.com or alpharettatechtalk.com on our website. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We publish there, North Fulton BRX. So for my guest, Tom Berger, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on Alpharetta Tech Talk.
Renaissance Rewards Extra is the checking account that checks all the boxes. Roadside assistance? Check. Cell phone insurance? Check. More than 400,000 local shopping discounts? Check. Up to $25 per month in ATM refunds and a great rate? Check. All in an easy-to-use mobile app. To open an account or find out more about Renaissance Rewards Extra Checking, go to renaissancebank.com or visit us at any of our more than 190 locations throughout the South. Renaissance Bank. understanding you. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.